Welcome to Backstage Access. We're here with Phil Hornung, front of house engineer for the Sam Roberts Band, and we're going to talk some tech today. How did you get started?
Started doing sound in high school, on like high school theatrical productions, and then started volunteering, doing community theater, stuff like that. It's tough when you're young. You have to find places where someone will let you do something, and that usually involves free work.
So when you're mixing for a band, they bring you on board. What's your mix philosophy? What's your approach to mixing? How do you choose what's loudest in the mix? What's going on?
Starting off with a new band is there definitely has to be a conversation with the artist and with artist management and possibly even people at a record label in terms of what the goals are. I've frequently been really surprised, having preconceptions about starting work with a new artist and then listening to their records and then finding out they want something quite different than what's on the record at the live show. And then other times people want exactly what's on the record at the live show. So it's really, we're really not producers, we're engineers, right? If you think of the studio sense of things, we're trying to accomplish a set of goals that a lot of people have a collaborative opinion on.
Gotcha. Cool. So it really is, it changes by act and by, by what you're doing.
Definitely, yeah. There's no one philosophy to take in terms of like, a drum should sound this way or a guitar should sound this way.
So, okay, you're on tour, the truck broke down, you're not gonna have your regular rig at the next gig. You can only grab one or two pieces of gear. What are your go-to pieces of outboard gear that, are essential to make the show function?
Outboard gear?
Yeah.
The Waves Max BCL.
Yeah?
I would take that over a console on tour.
Okay.
Because I've done both.
Yeah?
I've toured with just a console and just that. Okay. And it has a bigger impact, I find.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, as a master bus limiter.
Okay.
But outside of outboard gear, mics are the most important thing.
Yeah? What's your go-to mic pack?
I've tended... not necessarily by opinion. I just tend to work with a lot of artists circumstantially that have endorsements with Sennheiser-Neumann. Okay. So that's what I get handed. So I'm very intimately familiar with their products and product line and different models of microphones. But but there's a lot of stuff out there that's really good. Yeah. And again, it's all applications specific.
From a production standpoint, obviously bands put out tech riders.
Yep.
There's always a lot of specifics on there, and some of that it can be adhered to pretty closely. What is that more for your benefit to make life easier? Is it for the band's benefit to make sound checks shorter? What thought goes into?
I find it's for the band's benefit. No one really ever thinks of it that way. Yeah. And when you're a promoter and you're sort of haggling or negotiating with a production manager over what's going to be supplied to rider spec and what's not, their take on it is always that the technicians are really, really pushing really, really hard to get certain things, but it's generally for the band's sake. Right. Like, if I get a certain kind of console that we've done a lot of shows on that I can load a file, it's going to be a fast and easy sound check, and maybe that's what the band wants to have happen, or they want to recreate something that has already, been put down and tested and proved somewhere else rather than recreating it that day. But from my perspective, I don't mind using a new console, even one I've never touched before, as long as there's time to sort of get your head around it.
One or two thought line for guys starting out in this field or guys who have maybe been doing it but looking to advance. What's your one piece of advice for them to be able to move forward in what they do, to pay attention to in detail as far as, how to approach gigs or how to approach their mixing and all that kind of stuff?
How to approach gigs, I'd say you have to be flexible. There's a lot of, how especially touring works is you're basically trapping 10 people in a 400 square foot space. It's like, it's like Big Brother, but worse. So you have to be able to get along with people. You have to be able to meet people you've never met before and sort of quickly find the groove and not be too sort of caught up in your own way of doing things or living.
Yeah.
And from a technical side, advice, I find a lot of younger sound engineers, especially ones who come from studio backgrounds, have very preconceived notions about sounds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is my kick sound, this is my snare sound.
Yeah.
A big tip I would give people is before you even go to front of house, walk up to the instrument and listen to it.
Yeah.
Get someone to play for you through an amp or hit a drum or hit a piano or, you know, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, you're trying to create that, not some idea in your head.
Right.
Because a lot of times I've seen people do it, like just try and force something to sound a certain way, and it won't. If snare drum A sounds like itself and you've got this idea of snare drum B, it's almost impossible to really make it sound that way.
Right.
So
that makes sense. So reference your source.
Go listen to the stuff on stage and
try and recreate that accurately.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Phil. Backstage Access, Phil Hornung from the Sam Roberts Band.